Hi, this is Drew Dinsick of NBC Sports Edge here with Warren Sharp to talk the AFC North. Now, it is easy to see why this is one of the most exciting divisions in football. You have some bona fide Super Bowl contenders here, including last year's representative led by Joe Burrow. But believe it or not, the reigning champions in the Cincinnati Bengals are not the favorites to win the AFC North. It is the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson who are at plus 155. This has been sort of the sharp bet darling of the entire offseason cycle as we have been awaiting what ultimately plays out with the quarterback situation in Cleveland. But the Ravens, currently sitting at the top of the market, plus 155, whereas the Bengals are 2-1 to win the North. Cleveland Browns sitting right now at plus 275. And the Pittsburgh Steelers used to own this division, now sitting at the bottom at 10-1. Realistically, all on the back of the quarterback uncertainty. Let's start with Pittsburgh, who have a win total right now of 7.5. If you want to play the over 7.5, it is minus 105. The under is minus 115. So slight shading to an underachieving Pittsburgh Steelers campaign this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Warren, but a 7-win season would be the worst ever from Mike Tomlin. And somewhat surprising considering all the blue chips that this team has on the defense. Are you as concerned as the market is that Pittsburgh won't be able to score enough points to get them to an 8-win season?
I am. I haven't bet it, and you're right, it would be the first time ever for Tomlin and his tenure with the Steelers. But my concern starts on the offensive side of the ball, and I only need to look back to their strategy over the last couple of years, specifically last season. They decide to go after Najee Harris, and they say, we're not going to draft at the O-line. We're going to draft a running back. And then you look at what Najee Harris did behind this offensive line last season. He averaged 0.93 yards before contact per rushing attempt. Out of like 200 running backs over the last couple of years, out of 43 running backs with at least 200 attempts, that ranked 43rd, dead last in the NFL for yards before contact per rush. That's not necessarily a Najee Harris stat. It's more so a stat looking at their offensive line and that they're not getting holes for this running back to get through before he's getting contacted by defenders. And that's my big issue with the Steelers team, is that what is just mind-boggling to me is that this team faced the third lowest rate of heavy boxes last season, because all they do is have Ben Roethlisberger drop back and throw the ball, pepper the ball all over the field. They have a really high pass rate. And so the defenses just sag back and play pass a lot, and they hardly are ever putting 7 or more men inside of the box. And despite that, Najee Harris still ranking 43rd out of 43 running backs in yards before contact. What's going to happen this year, Drew? Now that Ben's gone, this team is going to run the football more. They are not going to get more of these light boxes any longer. Defenses are going to know that they aren't going to throw the ball at one of the highest rates in the league. They're going to be running the ball at least at an average rate, if not slightly above that. So the defenses are going to put more men in the box. And if they couldn't run with this offensive line against light boxes last year, I think they're going to have a lot of problems running it this season. And for that reason, your point was well said. They are going to struggle offensively enough, in my opinion, to put their defense in really bad positions, worse positions than they even were in last season. Shorter fields, situations where they absolutely can't allow a single field goal, let alone a touchdown, because of the score in the game to that point in time. I like the job that Tomlin has done. I think that they obviously did really well with Ben Roethlisberger not playing as great over the last couple of years and still able to get to the postseason last year, for instance. But I think this offense is really going to put this defense in difficult spots, and I think the team in general is really going to struggle.
Yep, I would agree. I think with a disruptor like TJ Watt and a ball hawk like Minkah Fitzpatrick, chances that you have a couple of games where the defense outscores the offense isn't crazy. as wild as that would be. But yeah, no, the Steelers this is going to be a rough watch. If you are, tuning in for offensive precision, I would find other games this season. That said, the Cleveland Browns, as we move up the board, are maybe the most interesting team to talk about because the uncertainty is enormous. We are currently expecting that Deshaun Watson misses at least the first 6 games of the season while his appeals process plays out. And for my money, I think that the NFL is just coming after him for a fine on top of the games, and that he comes back at some point during the season and plays. But it is entirely possible that they indefinitely suspend him, and we do not see him for the 2022 campaign, which really throws the Browns into a difficult spot, because this is a roster that is built to win now outside of the quarterback position, which will be manned by Jacoby Brissett, at least through the early part of this season. Is your read on this Cleveland Browns team as contender once Watson comes back, or do you think this is ultimately going to be a lost year?
That's a good question. I don't know that I think that this is going to be a lost year, but I also don't know that I could see them getting Watson up to speed enough, considering how much time he has missed the last time that he's actually played football. I know he is a brilliant talent on the field. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He was playing down in Houston. This team won only 4 games, but he was playing incredibly well the last season that he was down there. I like Deshaun Watson on the field, and I think he is a difference maker. And what he's going to allow Kevin Stefanski to do is not have to hold the quarterback's hand and call only the plays that are going to allow this quarterback to excel in, like he was doing with Baker Mayfield, but he's going to be able to open this offense up and use 3 wide or 4 wide receiver formations. He's going to be able to have success playing from in front or when playing from behind. But without knowing how many games he's truly going to miss, and you mentioned at least 6, I think the NFL is appealing to get at least 7, which is a big difference for this division, because that 7th game is against the Baltimore Ravens. And so if he's suspended for, even if they tack on 1 more game to it, now he's missing a game against Baltimore, which is going to be big for this division itself. So I think it's going to be tough for this team to win enough games in an ultra competitive AFC. And although Jacoby Brissett has been, quote unquote, serviceable in the past at times, just look at what he was doing last year compared to Tua down in Miami. It was night and day difference in terms of how bad Jacoby Brissett actually was. And Frank Reich made miracles with this offense being able to be semi-respectable with a lot of yards after the catch and the way that he was calling things. You're right. Great offensive line, great run game. They should be able to support their quarterback. I don't expect this team to go 0-6 when Deshaun Watson isn't there, but I think it's going to be tough to really emerge from this division winning enough games to either win the division or go as a wild card in an AFC that's just stacked from top to bottom.
Yeah, no, I think if you bring up 2 super high leverage games right there in the middle, week 7, week 8, at the Ravens versus the Bengals. If Watson is unavailable for those games, then I think they can basically kiss their chances of a playoff spot goodbye. And even with him back, there are certainly questions about how quickly you'll be able to get him up to speed. So easy to pass on the Browns for the 2022 season, at least with what we know now. The Cincinnati Bengals are an even more difficult handicap from a what is this team intending to do in 2022. Even though we know who the quarterback will be, and we know that the quarterback is good. Joe Burrow absolutely rocks. He was as good as advertised coming out of college. He comes off an ACL, injury that derailed his year 1, and all he does in year 2, answer every critic's questions about his ability to be an NFL quarterback, and takes his team to the Super Bowl. Now, were there some lucky breaks along the way? Absolutely. Did this team need to address some issues, particularly in the offensive line in the offseason? Absolutely. My question really about this Bengals team is, why didn't they do more? You have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, for crying out loud. You should be able to, go a little bit more all in, considering you have effectively 2 of the most valuable pieces, for building a franchise in today's NFL in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on cost control deals. The schedule is not looking easy for these guys, particularly down the stretch. They basically play every difficult team in the AFC back to back. But this is still a team that should be in the mix when it comes to playoff seeding and ultimately who wins the AFC. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Prior to free agency, I was expecting to fade this team a little bit in 2022 after the Super Bowl and how everything developed. But then I saw them go out and address some of the key issues that were causing them problems in 2021, primarily that offensive line, and they kept their receiving core together. And I said, hey, I don't know that I can come out here and fade this team. It does concern me that Joe Burrow has no timetable to return. He has not been, doing enough on the field this preseason. He hurt himself in the Super Bowl. There are things from an injury perspective that are slight red flags, but I don't think that those are going to be impactful enough by the time the season gets here, just from a pure projection standpoint. Things that concern me, though, are number one, as you alluded to, the schedule. They played the second easiest schedule in the NFL last year. This year, I've got them playing the sixth most difficult. When you talk about what this passing offense went up against in terms of opposing defenses, last season, they played 7 games against bottom 10 pass defenses and 0 games against top 10 pass defenses. This year, I'm projecting they'll face 6 games against top 10 pass defenses. And that doesn't even include like a team like the Baltimore Ravens, who made massive strides defensively in their secondary to try to get a lot better this season. So it's going to be a real step up this season in terms of the competition and who they're going to have to do it against, and the best shot that they're going to get from a lot more of these teams that knows this is a Super Bowl contender from last season. The other thing that's concerning here, Drew, is that when they were down in field goal range, this team had the 27th rated offense on third downs. That's why we saw their kicker have to come out a lot and bang these key impactful field goals so frequently. It's because this team was not calling good enough plays and executing well enough on third downs in these difficult situations when they could have gone for touchdowns, but instead settled for field goals down inside scoring range. And also we look at some of the other issues that I have with this team. They use bottom 10 rates of pre-snap motion and play action. These are things that I think could be higher, would make life easier for Joe Burrow, and they're just not using those. So there are things to like about this team, and it starts first and foremost with Joe Burrow, assuming he's 100% healthy. But there are enough red flags here for me to say, I'm not willing to fade this team right now in the futures market, but I'm certainly not going to be betting on them this season.
Yeah, one of the other good reasons not to bet on them, the market has ticked up their over 9.5 win total to minus 125 to the over. That is a little too juicy for what is a very difficult schedule as you laid out. So this is a pass, which leaves us with the market's presumptive favorite to win the AFC North, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. Their win total is 9.5 as well. However, the over there, minus 160. Under 9.5 is plus 130. And I think as you are closely following, this Ravens team has caught a lot of buzz over the balance of the offseason on the basis of they will be healthier as an operating assumption. And that is already being tested with some of the injuries that they have accrued in this preseason campaign so far. Do you think that the Ravens are due for a bounce back, or are you somewhat worried that this is still a relatively stars and scrubs team and some of the stars aren't looking perfectly ready to contribute this year?
I think they will bounce back because even with all the injuries that they sustained, this was the number 1 seed in December in the AFC until Lamar Jackson went out with injury. So, of course, if they lose Lamar, I have no confidence in this team at all. But even without any type of run game support last season, this team was the number 1 seed in the AFC before Lamar's injury caused him to miss those final 6 games of the season. Now, what am I expecting of this team to start the year? Well, last year they had to go majorly pass heavy, despite being the number 2 most run heavy team the prior 2 years, because they lost all their running backs in the offseason. I'm anticipating that they come a little bit more towards the run this season, but we're still not seeing those running backs that are going to carry the load for them look great in terms of rehabbing from their injuries. So it's still early in August when we don't know yet how close those guys are going to be to being healthy in week 1 or week 2 or week 3. But that is a factor. They may have to lean more on the passing attack. And what has this team done to support Lamar Jackson through the air? Not a heck of a whole lot, Drew. They have the 32nd highest cap hit for wide receivers this year. They don't have any good veteran wide receivers. They got the cheapest wide receiver room based upon cap hit. Their number 1 guy is Rashard Bateman, who's coming off of his rookie season last year. Other than that, they just have a tight end. They're going to need these guys to step up. I'm hoping that they go out and get another wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver, closer to the start of the season when they realize that maybe our backs aren't going to be here for us to start the year and we need to rely a little bit more on the passing attack. But when they relied on the passing attack last year, Drew, and shifted to the 7th most pass-heavy offense just like that because of all those running back injuries, Lamar Jackson, even with this wide receiving core, still was the number one most accurate quarterback throwing outside the numbers in the NFL. I mean, he put on some good numbers. He didn't have the cleanest season. He doesn't have enough support. I still think this team goes over their win total, but I bet it at a slightly better number earlier this offseason. I'm bullish on the Baltimore Ravens this year, but man, I mean, every single thing that I'm seeing about these injuries and guys not being 100% yet does obviously concern me.
Interesting. I agree with your take, and they have an interesting schedule. Breaks a little funky. They basically work their way up the AFC East, playing the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and then the Bills, all in consecutive weeks 1 through 4. So they don't face the divisional opponent until they match up against the Bengals week 5. Realistically, if you have high hopes, I think, of betting the Ravens, doing something special this season, particularly in the postseason, I don't think you can afford to wait. This team is probably going to accrue some wins in the first quarter of the season, and then that price is going to get a lot shorter. So keep that in mind if you're going to build a portfolio of AFC teams. You probably need to take some action on the Ravens before the season starts. With that, thank you for listening. The AFC North in the books. Well done, Warren. And be sure to catch the rest of our videos on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel.